Hello everyone, I hope that you are doing well. Welcome to the third lecture of the Mastering Yourself series. This lecture is going to be about your personal life and its influence on your trading. Before we begin with this lecture, I first want to ask you to think about the following question and write down for yourself the answer to this question. How does the person you want to become behave throughout the day? How does this person go about their daily routine? How does this person sit behind the charts and act within the markets? I want you to really take some time to think about these questions before you continue with this lecture. And I will share with you at the end of this lecture some very insightful tips on how you can manage your personal life and set it up in a way that you're able to perform to the best of your ability. I hope that you paused the lecture, so let's continue. How could your personal life influence your trading is what you're probably wondering right now. I'm sure that if you have been trading for a while, you've probably already experienced instances in which your personal life influenced your performance. We as humans are emotional beings. This means that if we allow ourselves to get driven by emotions, we're not thinking reasonably. And therefore, when we're behind the charts, we could do stupid things. It is very important to note that as a trader, you need to understand that you are an emotional being. You are human. But behind the charts, when you're behind the markets, this is not allowed. You need to be able to control yourself to a point where you're able to just be in sync with the market. You can't be driven by the wrong reasons. Even though we trade based on algorithmic concepts, which are objective, we need to understand that we can project. And this is what I will touch on during today's lecture. We experience feelings of happiness, calmness, pride, fear, doubt, anxiety, anger, and many more. And therefore, we need to understand which feelings are likely going to help us perform well inside the markets and which feelings are likely going to help us self sabotage. Because you need to understand that when you experience mistakes in the marketplace, you are the cause for those mistakes. The market maker is never going to get you. You are getting yourself. Why? Because you're projecting your own emotions onto the marketplace. If our personal life causes emotions to spark up, which are not right for good performance, and we do not manage this correctly, we will make mistakes. During today's lecture, I will share with you what could possibly occur in your personal life that could have a negative impact on your trading performance. I'm going to share with you tips and tricks on how to manage this accordingly. What could possibly happen in your personal life? First of all, a loved one passes away. This could be someone of your family. This could be someone that's not a family member, but a close friend, or just someone you truly care about. When this person passes away, you're likely going to be in a state of mind of grief. You're likely going to experience pain. You're likely going to truly miss that person. And because you truly miss that person, there's a certain void inside of you. There's something which is left to be filled. You feel a bit empty inside of you. Because you feel empty inside, you're going to make the wrong decision to put yourself in front of the charts and try to find a way of filling in that void. You try to just take a trade. You just try to get a positive emotion because if you win, you think to yourself, okay, now I'm happy. This feels better. You still grieve, but you feel like, okay, at least I have some dopamine hit. What's likely going to happen? You're likely going to put yourself in front of the charts with that mindset of trying to fix yourself and you're trying to get that positive emotion. All you can care about is that right there. You do not care about following your protocol, you do not care about following your rules. All you can care about and think about is okay, I need to have this dopamine kick. That right there is a state of mind which is not good for proper performance. Therefore, you need to take the time to process that person dying. Secondly, you can have a nasty argument with a loved one. This could be a fierce discussion about something. This could be even a fight with, for example, your spouse, or let's say your mother or your father, whoever it may be. You get triggered and you get into a state of anger. When you're in that state of anger, You can't put yourself in front of the charts because I'm sure that many of you have experienced this in the past. I know I did. Whenever I came in front of the charts with a state of mind of, okay, I'm angry now or I'm upset with this person, whatever it may be, when I came in front of the charts with that mindset, I would project that anger onto the marketplace. And that caused me to behave in a way that was not good. And that is what you need to understand. You need to go through that experience in which you made mistakes and you need to learn from them and say, okay, well, the next time that I'm in this state of mind, of anger, or something along those lines, you can't do anything inside of the markets. Because again, just like with the previous point, you're going to try and find a way of experiencing a dopamine hit. You want to feel something good. And that is the wrong mindset to have. Thirdly, your boss triggers you and you become angry, you become upset with him. He could say, look, I'm not going to give you that free day, or I'm not going to give you that vacation. You will try and prove to them that you don't need them. You will try and go out there and say, look, I'm able to do this inside of the markets. I don't even need you anymore. That right there again is the wrong state of mind, because then you become angry with that boss and you go into the marketplace to try and show to them, look, I do not need you. Again, wrong mindset to have, because you're projecting that anger onto the marketplace. Fourthly, you are stressed about having to meet a deadline. This could be a deadline for school, for your job, for your own business, something along those lines. When you're stressed about having to meet this deadline and you do not focus on doing the work, you're going to go into the marketplace with a state of mind which is going to make you rush into positions, because deep inside of you, you know you shouldn't be trading at all. You shouldn't even be staring at the markets. You should be focusing on getting that work done, on getting that project done. But instead, you go into the charts, and what happens? You take a loss. What now? Now you're upset about that. And you try to regain that equity, and you try to push it again and again and again, and before you know it, your account is blown. The next point is that you get scared by worldwide events. This could be because you're living in a country which is at war. This could be because you're overly focused on the news and allowing the news to control your mind and your thoughts. When you experience fear, it's very important to note that you can't allow that fear to influence your decision making processes behind the charts. Because if you go into the charts with a state of mind of I'm experiencing fear, you're going to be fearful of taking risks. You're going to be fearful of putting on positions. You're going to be fearful of sizing up when the time is right. That right there is not allowed. You can't go into the charts with a state of fear. You need to be able to say, okay, this fear is only real because it is in my mind. I allow this fear to live inside of my head. You need to take control of your own thoughts and remove that fear by being objective, by looking at the facts and looking at your personal life and focusing on what you can control. When you focus on what you can control and you do everything to the best of your ability, you're going to experience less fear and you're going to go into the markets with a state of calmness. This is a topic which we will discuss further later during this lecture. And the final point is that you want to escape the job that you're working at. This could lead to, for example, you rushing into trades because you want it so badly, you want to succeed so badly, you want to become independent so badly. Let me tell you something. If you are currently driven by the wrong reasons, because you are experiencing one of the things that I've written down on this slide, you need to take control of whatever is occurring inside your personal life. Because if you don't take control of that, if you don't control your own thoughts, you're going to be emotionally driven inside of the markets. And that is not good. Because if you're emotionally driven, you're going to not stick to your own rules, to your own protocols, and that is when you make mistakes. Acknowledge that, accept that, and know that when you take control back of your personal life and you take control back of your own thoughts, you're allowed to perform again. And that is when you will be able to perform well. But if you're emotionally driven, if you're overly fearful about events, you're not going to perform well, because you're always going to project those feelings of fear, those feelings of sadness onto the charts. And that is what I want you to be mindful of. There are many more things that could happen in your personal life that could have a negative impact on your own trading, but these are just some general examples that hopefully provide you with some insights on the things that could occur. If you are experiencing other things in your personal life and you want to share them, I would highly suggest you to post them on the mentorship forum because I know that others are also going through the same things that you are probably going through right now. Here you can see a cartoon of a person who has his hands in his hair. And the reason why I want to share this image with you is because whenever we are going through situations inside of our personal life, we often feel strong emotions such as anger, such as stress, such as grief, or just pain in general. And when we have these emotions, it's very important to note that we can't do the following. We can't utilize these emotions to then go behind the charts. If you think that you can go behind the charts when your head ain't clear, you're not going to perform well. You're going to fuck around and find out. That's a sentence that you can keep in mind, and it's not worth it. Surely, I know that the majority of you have gone through this, just like I have in the past, where there's something in your personal life which is bothering you, which is making you feel a certain way, and then you make the wrong decision to sit behind the charts, and you're then surprised by the bad behavior or bad performance that creeps up. And therefore, you need to understand that when you go through these events, you need to learn from them. Meaning, you need to say, okay, the next time that my head is not in the right state of mind, and there's something in my personal life which is bothering me, I need to say, okay, I am not going to sit behind the charts. So if you want to see a visual representation of that, it would look like the following, where you would see a big cross between the behavior of being stressed or being angry and going behind the charts. Don't do it. As a general rule of thumb, I want you to understand that if your head is not clear, don't push it. That should be on the top of your protocol. Because you need to understand that you can have the best technical approach, you can have the best model, but if you, as the operator, are not in the right state of mind, you are going to make mistakes. And you're going to look back at the mistakes that you made, and you're going to wonder, why the hell did I do that in the first place? It's because you're not able to think clearly. And it's okay. Learn from the experience and try to avoid it moving forward. What I want you to keep in mind is that self-awareness leads to growth. But in order for you to become self-aware, you must first go through experiences and learn from them. This is why during the previous lecture, the topic of journaling was of discussion. Because during that lecture, I shared with you how to journal the events that you're going through. And I hope that the personal life lecture has now given you some insights on things that you can look at that might be of influence on your trading performance. I want to ask you some questions. And I really want you to take the time to think about the answers to these questions. First of all, what are the characteristics of the person that you dream of becoming? First of all, how does that person treat their body? Does that person sleep well? Does that person eat healthy? Does that person engage in physical activity? Or does he or she engage in activity that could harm his or her body? All these questions, they need to be answered for yourself. Because if you're unable to take care of your own body, you're not going to feel optimal. And if you're not feeling optimal, if you're feeling a bit off, if you're feeling a bit maybe like, okay, I could be taking more care of my body and I'm not doing so. Why are you not doing so? Because of a lack of discipline. That lack of discipline is going to influence your behavior behind the charts as well. So in order for you to have better behavior behind the charts, you need to be able to take care of your body in a way that is healthy. Secondly, how does that person react to life's challenges? Does that person just run away from challenges, or does that person keep his or her head up and just face life's challenges with a smile? Because that person understands that they're going to grow through that experience. Thirdly, I want you to think about if that person spends time thinking negatively. Does that person worry about events? Or does that person look at events and looks at them from the perspective of, okay, there's something to be learned from this experience, so there's no reason for me to worry about the experience. All I can do is look at the experience from a perspective of There's something to be learned here, and I can get better by it. Surely, my emotions might signal to me that something hurts, that something is painful, but that does not mean that I'm going to overly, obsessively worry about it. And fourthly, does that person spend time with negative people? You often hear people say that you need to be surrounded by like minded individuals in order for you to become the best version of yourself, and that's completely true. If you're surrounded by people that drain your energy, that only try to tear you apart, that only try to cause you to think negatively, why are you even surrounded by those individuals? Surely I understand that if you're forced to be around them, such as, let's say, your coworkers or your boss, or maybe you're in a toxic relationship or whatever, if you are forced to be surrounded by those people, try to ignore their opinions. But if you're able to let go of those people, the best thing you can do is let go. Because you know that at the end of the day, you need to do what's right for you and stop trying to become socially accepted, because you never will be. People will always have their opinions about you, they will always say things about you, and at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. All that matters is how you look at yourself in the mirror and if you're able to take care of your loved ones. With regards to this final question, what I need you to understand is that when you're surrounded by individuals that have a toxic impact on your own mental state and on your own thought processes, you can't allow them to take up space in your own mind. Because if you allow them to take up space in your own mind and you allow them to take control over your own thoughts, you're going to go out there in the markets to try and prove yourself to them. You want to go out there and you want to show off to them. You want to go out there and you want to be able to show to them, look, you were wrong about this trading stuff not working. And that right there is a very toxic character trait which you need to take care of. One of the ways to take care of that is by not allowing those toxic individuals to even take up space in your own mind. And the most easy way to do so is by just walking away. And it might seem hard in the beginning, but over time, once you understand that the best thing you can do is to let go of certain individuals in your life, you will find relief and you will find calmness in your mind. Once you have a clear vision in mind of what the best version of yourself does each day, why wouldn't you commit to behaving that way every single day and every single week? What I want you to understand is that if you have a clear vision of the person that you want to become, if you do everything each day that that person is doing in order to become better and in order to grow, what is the logical outcome over time? That you're going to improve and that you're going to get to that level one day. During this lecture thus far, we have defined certain events which could be of influence on your own trading performance. In order to limit the influence of these events on your trading performance, we need to put systems in place to control the influence of these personal life events on our trading. Let's take a look at the first tip when it comes to defining systems for yourself. In advance of each trading session, I want you to take 5 to 10 minutes in which you just close your eyes and try to calm your mind. Focus on your breathing and get into a state of calmness. This means that you just need to take some time in advance of each trading session to just sit down, maybe do it on the ground, maybe do it on your chair, whatever. Just sit down and I want you to close your eyes and really just breathe. Focus on controlling your own thoughts. And if you notice that your mind is actively drifting to experiences prior or interactions with other people that you experienced prior throughout the day, then it's a warning sign because it shows to you that you're not able to focus. If you, however, are able to simply focus on your breathing and nothing really whirls up in your mind, and you're just able to be in the moment, that right there is the ideal state of mind to be in. Because when you're in that state of mind, you are going to see the market for what it is. And you're not going to look to project anything because there's nothing bothering you on your mind. And that is what I want you to begin implementing. If you have never tried out meditation or prayer in the past, I would highly suggest you to do so. Because when I began implementing such rules in my daily routine, the ability for me to control myself behind the charts skyrocketed. And please try this out. I know it might seem a bit weird at first, especially when you have ADHD or stuff like that, and you constantly are thinking about things, try to simply calm your mind. Because if your mind is not calm, you're always going to race. Whilst in reality, you should relax. And when you're in that state of calmness, in which you're able to just relax and see the markets for what they are, you're going to perform better than when you're overly worried about, okay, this is what's on my mind, or this is now what's on my mind, and etc. You know how it goes. Focus on being present. All that matters is the here and now. The past doesn't matter, just like the future doesn't matter. All that matters is how we choose to behave now. And that is what this tip allows you to focus on: being present. You need to control your mind. If you're unable to control your own mind and control your own thoughts, or become aware of your own thoughts, you're not going to think clearly behind the charts. If you recognize that there's something on your mind which is bothering you, which is making you upset, or you're angry about that, the worst thing you can do is behind the markets, as I already described prior during this lecture. And therefore, I want you to really begin implementing this first tip, because it's going to help you recognize the warning signs. And if you recognize the warning signs, you need to listen to them, and you can't ignore them. Because if you ignore your warning signs, if you ignore the signs that are being provided to you that something feels off in your own mind, you're going to beat yourself up if you go out there and make mistakes. So don't do that. The second tip that I will share with you is the following. Something that really helped me a lot to become more aware of my own actions and feelings throughout the day was logging what I did and how I felt. This means that I created a daily tracker for myself. And a daily tracker is the following. A daily tracker is basically a document or a database in which I try to log my actions throughout the day, such as the activities that I did. Did I go to the gym, for example? Did I engage in activities with my family? Did I feel a certain way? Did I feel loved? Did I feel angry? Did I feel upset? Did I feel anxious, or did I feel calm? All these emotions that I experience throughout the day that I am actively aware of, I try to log them. The reason why I log all of these activities and emotions that I feel is because when I do my pre-market routine, I can look back at how the day was prior to the pre-market routine, and I can simply say, okay, am I feeling calm? Or has today been one of those days in which stuff just didn't go my way and I feel upset about that? So I can't go out there and do something behind the charts. That right there is a level of self-awareness which I had to develop by journaling actively throughout the day. And I want to share with you an example of a daily performance tracker. Here you can see an example of the daily performance tracker that I use myself. What I want to do is the following. I want to share this document with you. I want you to try out this database for a month or so and try to see if it really helps you with becoming more self-aware. I know that for me, this has been a game changer, so I know that for many of you, it will likely be the same. In order to copy and duplicate the documents, you first need to have an account on Notion, and then you can go to the link in the description of this lecture, and you can go here to the top right, and you can press on this button right here, and it will duplicate the database to your own personal Notion, and then you'll be able to adjust all the variables that I have put in, because this is just a simple foundation which we can build upon. What I want to do is I want to walk you through the overall performance tracker. First of all, what I want you to see is that we log the dates. This speaks for itself. The date is simply, okay, what's the current day? As you can see, for the 11th of August, this is the log that we're doing. The first log that you can see is the protocol log. You might think, what do you mean by protocol? For me, the protocol log is the following. The protocol is not simply the protocol behind the markets, meaning this is not simply my trading protocol. No, for me, the protocol is everything that I do throughout the day. Am I aligned with everything that I know I should be doing in order to become better? That to me is the protocol. If I am not doing what I should be doing in order to become better, I will put in here by the end of the day, when I have looked back at the day, disregard it. If I did, however, do everything that I know I should be doing in order to become better, I put in followed. This to me is like the most important log. Did I do what I set out to do? Yes or no? That is what I mean with protocol. Therefore, this log occurs all the way at the end of the day. The next part of this daily performance tracker is the following. It's the live part. Within the live part, I log the activities that I did throughout the day, and I also log if I overly felt something. Meaning, if we take a look at this live part, you can see, for example, that I logged that on the 11th of August, I went to the gym, I worked, I spent time with family, I prayed, and I was loving to my loved ones. But I could also put in the emotions that I felt. For example, I felt calm, I felt patient, I felt happy. Then I log whether or not I took a trade. This is a yes or no. If I took a trade, I log the outcome of the trade. And finally, I log how I felt whilst being in the market. Meaning, was I calm? Was I analytical? Was I patient? Or was I overconfident? Was I fearful? I've provided you with some examples of things that you can log within this overall tracker, but please note that many more things can be added to these logs. The options that I've provided to you that you can just select off, they are rather simple and you can add way more to them. But these were just the options that I thought would be applicable for everyone. Personally, I also log, for example, my sleep duration and my energy waking up and all of that stuff, but that might be overkill. But please just focus on trying to apply this for a month or so. When you try this for a month, you're likely going to see repeating variables that are influencing your performance behind the markets. If you want to get this tracker, you can just go to the link in the description and you can press here on this copy button and it will be duplicated to your own Notion account. With that, this lecture comes to an end. I hope that you found it insightful. Next lecture will be on dealing with fears in an effective manner. Be safe.